Reflections from Torch Trust, focusing on Christian faith and sight loss.
Hello, and a warm welcome to Reflections from Torch Trust, the show that explores faith and disability in today's world. I'm your host, Marilyn Baker, and I'm excited to be with you for the next half an hour. The third Monday in January, which is tomorrow, has been dubbed Blue Monday and has gained the reputation of being the most depressing day of the year. So today we're going to hear about how we can bring some laughter into our lives to lift those winter blues. Producer Lynn Davies has been speaking to Ian MacDonald, a stand-up comedian who also leads laughter workshops. I was intrigued to hear more. Here's part of that interview.
Ian, welcome to Reflections.
Thank you very much.
You are a laughter workshop leader. Can you explain what that is?
So I think my overarching title is a gelotologist, someone who studies laughter. I love laughter, so we can do some geeky stuff around that. But as part of that, I'm also a stand-up comedian, and I also lead laughter workshops using a technique called laughter yoga, which is just a way of inviting a group of people into a playful arena of trust where they are free to laugh and enjoy laughter.
Gelotologist, is that something you say when you want people to take you a bit more seriously as a stand-up comedian because it sounds very posh and professional?
I don't. It is the technical term. It's been a field of study since the 1960s. If I was to get a little bit geeky, Jello from the Greek for laughter. So it is the science of the study of laughter. I don't think in a comedy club I'd say, good evening, I'm a gelotologist, hello. I think that could be a killer.
So what got you into laughter? Because, I mean, we all love a good laugh and laughing just feels good. But what makes somebody become a gelotologist and study laughter professionally?
Oh, my goodness. Well, first of all, a real inspiration is I have a disabled son called Haddon who has cerebral palsy. And he's faced a lot of challenges in his life. But one of the things he's always been able to do well is laugh. And that's been quite a motif of our family, just that laughing together. So I guess I became quite interested. This feels like good stuff. It feels that there's a lot going on here. And so for a bit of fun, I started doing stand-up comedy and Haddon loved coming as my wingman to stand-up comedy. But I found that I started reading and exploring far more, not just about comedy, but about laughter itself. And learning a lot from that. And then, of course, one thing leads to another. The more I learned about laughter, the more I realized that although comedy was great, there were other ways to step into laughter. And then through that, I qualified as a laughter yoga leader.
What does laughter yoga entail exactly for somebody who has never heard of this?
So, okay, we're going to get a little bit geeky for a moment, Lynn. Human beings, we are emotional beings. We laugh and we cry and a whole range of other things that we feel. But laughter is a really important part of interaction, community, communication. So the fascinating discovery is that 80% of laughter doesn't come from joke stimuli. So although I love stand-up comedy, 80% of human laughter has got nothing to do with jokes. We're either laughing because we choose to, or we're laughing because other people are laughing and we're joining in with that. What laughter yoga basically says is laughter is so good for you at so many levels. We should just laugh. So it was a technique developed by an Indian doctor called Dr. Kataria as a way of just enabling laughter and laughter then enabling more laughter. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I must confess I have actually tried it before because we had it as when I was working for a different employer, we had it as one of our team building things. And laughter yoga for me has always been quite easy because I naturally laugh at everything. I find most things in life funny. There is the odd situation where I am not laughing, but I personally find laughter really, really, really easy. So how about somebody who perhaps don't feel that laughter comes very easy to them? Maybe they are struggling with things in life. How can they start laughing, so to speak, to reap the benefits of laughter? Do they have to attend a laughter workshop, or is it something that you can do at home in your own home?
So you can choose to laugh anywhere. I mean, let's. Stephen Hawkins said a really interesting thing once. He said, "Life would be tragic if it wasn't so funny." And I like that quote because it carries both dimensions of life as tragedy and humor. And there are times as human beings where we find ourselves unable to laugh. Things are just too difficult, and maybe, periods of grief or whatever. But for a lot of our existence, we choose to laugh. If you're at work and the boss tells a joke that's not funny, if he or she is the boss, you'll notice that most people laugh. You can just choose to laugh, and so it really is just putting that into practice. With laughter yoga, we'd start with some simple chants to just relax people, and so something like very good, yay, with a smile, and begin to just sort of feel a little bit more playful, or some clapping, ho ho ha ha ha, ho ho ha ha ha. Some ways to just start to not take ourselves quite so seriously, which is probably the biggest barrier. And then it is deciding to laugh. We all have that ability, providing we're not in such a place that it's impossible. So a little giggle, right through to a ho, 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 ho. And laughter leads to laughter. So it doesn't take much. There was one lady who I was delighted with. She came to a laughter yoga session, and I bumped into her a few weeks later. And she now uses her drive to work to practice laughing. And A, I love that, but B, I also love thinking about the cars in the traffic around her and just what they make of that.
Just watching her laugh. And actually, it's right, because when you did your hee and ha ha ha,
Oh,
ha, I found myself
yeah,
smiling as well, because it's really infectious, isn't it? Laughter, when you hear
yeah.
someone else
It's
laugh.
the way that we're wired to be. It is fascinating. And of course, the tragedy is if we find ourselves isolated or lonely, we're less in a place where laughter happens. We're less able to laugh or to experience laughter. So it's got to start somewhere. But just hear me out. Tears are good and laughter's good. But I think there's something particularly special about laughter.
Before we go back to Ian, here's a thought for the week, written and read by Jill Ferraby.
Someone has cited these 3 keys to peace and happiness. 1. Fret not. Why? Because he loves you, as the Bible tells us in 1 John chapter 4, verse 10. This is love, not that we loved God, but that he loved us and sent his Son as an atoning sacrifice for our sins. God is love. 2. Faint not. Why? Because he holds you, as it says in Psalm 139, verse 10. Your hand, Lord, will guide me. Your right hand will hold me fast. 3. Fear not. Why? Because he keeps you, as it says in Psalm 121, verse 5. The Lord watches over you. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. The sun will not harm you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will keep you from all harm. He will watch over your life. W.B. Davidson wrote, When just a small child, I accompanied my father on a short trip to see grandmother who lived 3 miles from our home. We remained longer than we meant to, and night overtook us. Between our home and grandmother's house was a swamp. That night, the frogs croaking and the crickets chirping together with the darkness and the shadows of the trees frightened me. I inquired of my father if there was any danger of something catching us, but he assured me there was nothing to dread. And so, taking me by the hand, he said, I will not allow anything to harm you. Immediately my fears passed away, and I was ready to face the world, for my father had me by the hand. And we too have a loving, dependable Father. As we rest in the love and keeping power of Christ and recognize that God holds our hand, we too will be able to go forward unafraid. With God's help, we can use the 3 keys to peace and happiness and find release from fears.
Jill Ferriby there giving us some encouragement. Now, let's return to the second part of Lynn's interview with Laughter Workshop leader Ian MacDonald.
You have also done this in church and Christian settings.
Yeah.
How has that been received in those circles?
That's a very interesting question. So I'm qualified as a laughter yoga leader. That's the official term that Dr. Kateria coined, because it has that communal like yoga experience, and it also affects the breath and the breathing. So it is kind of yogic. But in some Christian settings, it's best if I drop the word yoga. And that's why we talk about laughter workshops sometimes. I tend to do it by invitation. So it's only for those who are willing to put themselves in that space who take part. So I think that's an important part. It does require vulnerability to put yourself in the way of laughter, to laugh with other people, to decide to be playful. But yeah, it's been good. And regardless of where I've done laughter yoga, it's glorious to see people coming out with huge smiles on their faces and slightly achy diaphragms and a kind of joy radiating from them, and just say, oh, I have not laughed like that for so long. And it's glorious.
Have you ever been in a sort of position where people come in to the workshops then and they are perhaps not feeling great? Maybe, they're a bit stressed after work, or they've been, experiencing other things, and
Yes.
then they come out and they just look transformed because of their smiles on their faces.
Yeah. I mean, that has happened, and it's, as a leader, it's a case of reading the room and finding out where people are when they come into that space. So it's my job to take them into a playful place where they can trust the leader and each other. I've never had a case where someone looks like they just are not going to do that. Sometimes I have to dissuade people from trying to make others laugh or to try to be funny because they're insecure or nervous, to just put them in themselves in the way of that. But there's one laughter game that we play that tends to break the ice with the stress. In laughter yoga, we use gibberish quite a lot. It's very cathartic. So one of the games that we play is to just think of something frustrating from the week, and then just express that for as long as a breath can hold in gibberish. And then when you've got all of that frustration out, just choose to laugh at the situation and at yourself and life. So that tends to be quite cathartic and and hilarious.
Has your faith then, because you've obviously worked in really a lot of different settings, including church, has your faith shaped how you've been working with laughter?
Yeah, I think it has. So yeah, practicing Christian, and in fact, I'm a theological tutor at a theology college. So my faith and my main job go hand in hand. But I think there's a deep spirituality to laughter. We have to be vulnerable to put ourselves in that place. We have to not take ourselves too seriously, and the Bible is full of stuff around joy. Something that comes from a deeper place, hope and joy deeply connected together. So I think there was a spirituality, a faith, a theological line of inquiry for me in what does it mean to be human and to live more fully as a human being. One of the Psalms in the Bible talks about us being fearfully and wonderfully made. And I think that extraordinary human capacity for life, for love, for joy, in the midst of what the Bible is also acknowledges, tragedy and pain. So I'm really interested how we navigate that and what it means to find a fullness of life. So that was part of my interest. So I have done sessions on the spirituality of laughter, where we've ended with some laughter practice. But in fact, Dr. Kateria, who I mentioned, he is a fully medically trained doctor. But the more he researched laughter, the more he realized the benefits of laughter are huge, and in many cases would be more healing and restorative than some of the medicines he was prescribing. So actually his route into that, it isn't just the laughter workshop. They've rediscovered that they can choose to laugh, and choosing to laugh is a glorious thing, and try and find ways to do that.
So some of our listeners may want to try this now. So you've given them some tools that they can try at home.
Yes.
But if people want to find laughter workshops wherever they live, because we have listeners all over the country and also in other countries as well. So if people are interested in finding laughter workshops, what is it that they need to look for?
So look for laughter yoga. That would be a good thing to do. Hopefully we can put this in the notes. But if you look on YouTube, there is a series of connected videos called the Skype Laughter Chain. So if someone wanted to just step into laughter, I would recommend that. It's a series of videos. It starts off with a baby laughing, which is the most glorious noise. And then it films someone reacting to the baby laughing, which of course makes them laugh. And then we see someone looking at them laughing at the baby, and that makes them laugh. So just find a clip on YouTube with some laughter, and rather than just passively watching it, smile and then just choose to laugh alongside it. It is a choice. We can all laugh or choose to laugh. So that would be my recommendation. Skype Laughter Chain, or look up a local session for laughter yoga or a laughter club and go along.
I love to laugh, don't you? And I love to play practical jokes as well. Anyway, don't forget, if you're blind or partially sighted and you'd like to learn more about any of the services provided by Torch, including booking a place on our Torch Together holidays, our accessible books and resources, or our groups, our client services team would be very happy to speak with you. The number to call for information is 01858 438 260. That's 01858 438 260. Or you can email info@torchtrust.org. You can also find us on social media. Just search for Torch Trust on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and YouTube. I'm sorry to say that we're out of time for today. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Reflections, and until next week, from me, Marilyn, and everyone on the Reflections team, goodbye and God bless.
You've been listening to Reflections from Torch Trust.